Welcome back to Mastering Menopause. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Amanda Thebe to the show. And Amanda is definitely a true force in women's health, and she is also the author of the best-selling book, Menopocalypse, How I Learned to Thrive During Menopause and How You Can Too. And I absolutely I love this book. You're all about empowering women to navigate menopause with confidence. I love your sense of humor and your no BS approach. And I was wondering if you could speak to on you're the co-founder of Naya Health that provides virtual menopause health assessments in Canada. So thank you so much for being here. And
Thanks for having me, Kathy. I'm fine. It took us a while to get here, but we're here. So I'm glad we're speaking.
You started as a personal trainer, always a fitness enthusiast. What got you into the menopause space?
Probably the same as you. Lived experience. Yeah, being in menopause. So, I actually come from a tech background. I worked for IBM for a lot of years, but I was always into fitness. I did my personal training when I was like 19 or 20, way back when I lived in the UK, and my nutritional certifications, all of the different subspecialties, and was always of the mind that nobody needs to do anything differently, not really happen significantly to women except if they have children. So I did a lot of pre and postnatal fitness. I also worked with athletes and the elderly. There was never something around about menopause. In fact, sort of didn't even know anything about menopause, if I'm honest. And it was only after going through my own personal struggles, which I do talk about in the book, where I really was supported by my healthcare system. They wanted to help me without a doubt, but nobody was joining the dots. So for about 2 years, I went from being this really vibrant, healthy, fit person to being a complete shadow of myself, Kathy. I didn't recognize myself. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I just felt like somebody had stolen something from me. And because I had these symptoms that to me didn't make sense that about they definitely weren't associated with menopause. I know it now, but none of the doctors associated them to being hormonal changes. And when I eventually saw a gynecologist about just a regular checkup, and he said, "Oh, is everything else okay?" And I started crying. And I was like, "No, actually, the last 2 years I've been feeling terrible." And he was like, "Bam," he recognized what was going on straight away. Yeah, I see this day in and day out. Like it's always getting misdiagnosed, but I think you've got depression. I think you're struggling with migraines with aura. I think you're in perimenopause and I can help you. And I was like, Perry, what? It was 10 years ago now, right? I'm 54 now. That by this time I was 44. And I just was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but phew, I don't have a brain tumor. So that's good. And then I felt a sense of relief. And then I just was really pissed. I
Mhm.
just thought, this isn't okay. So I have a pretty dynamic career, nearly 30 years in the industry, and I don't know what's going on with my own body. And if I don't know, chances are lots of women aren't going to know. And so I just went down this perimenopause rabbit hole, and it's deep and dark, and there's not a lot of answers there. But I did reach out to a lot of specialists in multiple areas, and I started getting really valid evidence-based research and information. And I'm very clear about that because there's a ton of misinformation out there. There's a ton of scams out there. And I'm a born skeptic, and you'll know that if you follow me. But I really wanted to align myself with people who I really trusted to be valid sources of information and that could show that by referring back to the menopause guidelines. And then I wrote a book, I created a community, and it just has slowly evolved. I haven't really ever tried to grow things, but I do believe, and I hope women see me as someone who's pragmatic, somebody who is just like them, and someone who really wants to get the truth out there and has absolutely no problem calling out misinformation. None at all. Because
Right.
it's not personal to me. It's just they're lying to you. You deserve to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of pack there. It's we don't know. It almost comes blindsides you, and it shouldn't. Hopefully now, like people are talking about it more. Hey, when you start to see symptoms in your 40s, as you had it early 40s, it could start in your late 30s. I went through it when at 47, no idea, because I thought you didn't go into menopause till you're 50. So I'm 57 now. But having the conversation and having people and having books like this to reference rather than following random influencers that have an agenda is so important. And we'll get to that. That's another topic, but really aligning yourself and getting the information that is factual is going to be the first step. And I know you're very much about, like your book explains, how we as women can shape our experience in menopause through the lifestyle choices that we make. And it really is that. But we feel so like we're at the mercy of our symptoms, and we do have the power to positively or negatively influence what our experience is through menopause, through those lifestyle choices. It's when we see the shiny objects or the doctors that dismiss us. So you were lucky to have a doctor that aligned, that said, this is what you're going through, because a lot of times that's not the experience. The experience is here's antidepressant pill. Let's put you back on birth control, like all kinds of crap, instead of dealing with the root cause of what's going on. So I am such an advocate for getting informed and not being, so that you're not gullible to marketing that's happening right now, which is a huge explosion targeted to, it used to be just women, and now it's women in menopause.
It's an industry, Kathy.
Yeah.
It's now an industry that's, the supplement industry alone is worth, for menopause, is worth $24 billion.
I saw your list. Like most of those supplements were probiotics. A probiotic is not.
And you usually don't need them. And yeah, and I honestly like really feel like the onus should never be on the woman as well. And it often, what will happen is you'll try something and it doesn't work, and you feel like you're failing, and you just feel like you're spinning your wheels. And these people know this. These people see your vulnerabilities, see your desperation, come up with the magic pill, as you said, or that I know something that nobody else knows. You need turmeric because you've got inflammation, and this is actually what's going to help you. And there's not a ton of data behind any of these things, but there might be a glimmer of truth in it. And they'll take that glimmer of truth and they'll spin it and they'll suck women in, and it's never the woman's fault. And I just feel so sorry for women because they're being taken advantage of. And a lot of the time, you don't have the energy or the capacity, or the education, or you name it, to be able to fight these things. And I just think it's, like I say, you end up getting a thick skin, and you end up being really skeptical and just going, this isn't working. This isn't true, what they're saying. Otherwise, what you'll see is women just getting sucked into following, like almost like a celebrity doctor that feels like a messiah because she's recognized you. And so you'll just leave everything they say. And yeah, I just think it's unethical. And I can see it as clear as day. I've been working with a lot of the science communities to recognize misinformation. But it's not easy. And we've all fallen for it. Every single one of us.
Yeah, for sure. Because like you said, there's a glimmer of truth. That's how all fad diets have started. that's how the 10,000 steps rule started, right? It was a glimmer of truth that you could definitely.
Although that's one I'm just like, yeah, there's not, it's like when you look at things where you don't know if there is a ton of evidence, will it do any harm?
Yeah.
And to me, the supplement ones, yes, it might cause you harm because they're not benign. And we've got to stop believing that just because it's natural, it doesn't harm you. And also supplements aren't natural, by the way, because they're made in labs. The 10,000 step one, I'm like, yeah, people need to move more. It's an arbitrary number when it comes to it, but it's not the worst of them, is it? And it's a do no harm one. Yeah.
But the guy that invented the pedometer,
Yeah,
came up with the rule. Advocating for yourself, I think, starts with having the information in the first place and recognizing. So I'm glad that menopause is being talked about, because when I was 47, it was taboo 10 years ago.
well, we're both talking 10 years ago now. Our experience was 10 years ago, right? Yeah, it's definitely evolved. Like I 10 years ago had never heard the word perimenopause. I'd never heard the word before. I think I said, what the fuck is perimenopause to my doctor? You can't bleep me out on this show. This is me. You've invited me on, and you know I'm going to swear. And the doctor started laughing anyway. I went, I've never heard of that. And in fact, I thought menopause was for older people and older women, etc. And just realized I didn't know a ton about it. And that's definitely changed. It's a very recognized word now. We're all talking about it in our general everyday lives. Not everybody, but that's definitely evolved. And it makes me really happy to know that has happened. I believe that us Gen Xers are paving the way for the millennials because they're not going to put up with our crap. They're going to make sure, and we will be the last set of women to deal with this because we're going to make sure that it works for everyone else that follows behind us. But yeah, but again, so we've got all of these people really trying to help women, advocate for them so that they have agency, so that they can say, I think this is what I'm struggling with. I would like to go to my doctor and have a conversation. So I'm going to take the prescribing guidelines. I'm going to take the medical consensus. I'm going to maybe take a symptom tracker that you like. If we give women the tools and we fill those educational gaps for them, then we create power for them. And you have to do that because we know the medical institutions aren't doing any menopause training. So most of the time you're going to speak to a doctor who likely has no menopause training. Even if you get a referral to an OBGYN, 1 in 10 get training and they've opted to do it. It's so bad, right? So I had a personal experience when I lived in Texas where I was trying to get hormone therapy. And my doctor was like, no, do you want cancer? It was one of those type of things. And then I said, and I'd like a progesterone medication to go with it to protect my uterus. And he was like, I've never prescribed that in my life. I'm not going to start now. I went home and I just thought it shouldn't be this hard. And then I got an email from him saying, I just want to say thank you because you challenged me. And I went away and I read the guidelines and I've been doing it wrong. And I will change the way I treat women with menopause now. So I just think we're all learning. We don't know what we don't know. And when we talk about things and we provide valid information, it can help a myriad of different people.
Yeah. I know you spoke about your experience with hormone replacement therapy, and on one side of the camp, it's this miracle thing, right? It will change your life. And I do agree with that. It did change my symptoms that I had. I was able to take that successfully. But now we're hearing some people are saying that every woman should be on this and it's going to prevent this and it's going to prevent that. And really, we're just addressing symptoms and what's happening with the hormones and replacing those. And so having it as a panacea for all of these things is, definitely misinformation, but not everybody can take these therapies either. And so it's like, if you can't be on HRT, then you're screwed. That's just not acceptable.
Yes, I'd like to talk to that. And then I think that it's really important to preface that I'm not a doctor, so I will never talk about this from a medical standpoint, but I'm a member of the menopause societies in Canada and in North America. I read the guidelines. I know what the current medical consensus is, and I can translate that over so that women do know what the valid information is. And it's really simple. First of all, we have to stop talking about menopause hormone therapy, and it's not HRT, by the way. HRT is an invalid term. Hormone replacement therapy would indicate you are replacing hormones and you're not. The level of hormones you get from menopause hormone therapy, MHT, is very low. You're not replacing them back up to the high levels when you were prior to menopause, unless you're someone that's gone through an early or premature menopause, and then you would be prescribed hormone replacement therapy. So it's really good to get terminology right, just because it helps women, right? It helps them when they know the right term. So menopause hormone therapy, I think the best way to look at this is that, okay, this is a shared experience, but it's unique to every woman, right? If you have symptoms and you go and speak to your doctor, the first line treatment that you should have as part of your discussion is menopause hormone therapy, right? And that's not happening to most women, right? So there's an issue with access to menopause hormone therapy, and that comes on the back heels of the WHI study of 2002 that said it caused breast cancer. That's been retracted now, and we know it's a safe first-line treatment for not all symptoms, but for some symptoms, right? And also it can be helpful for osteoporosis if you are a candidate, you have high risk for osteoporosis. So it should be part of the conversation, but there's going to be people that never want to take it, people that try it and don't do well on it. It's a drug. It's not natural. It's a drug. And even if it's bioidentical or similar to the hormones in your body, you may have side effects, and it might not be for you. That was me, by the way. I think you know that, right? And then you might also have contraindications. The current contraindications are for people who've had blood clots and breast cancer, but it isn't always a no. It's a discussion you have with your healthcare provider. So if you go into this treating it like a drug, which it is, and just go, it might be able to help me with my hormone symptoms, like you, it was life-changing. You felt like yourself again. You felt like you could thrive again. And there's many women that's how they feel. There's many women that try it, though not many. I think the majority of women have a positive experience, but then there's some women that don't have a positive experience. We can't have them thinking that they're failing just because they have a hormone sensitivity or it doesn't work for them, or if they can never take it. The idea that you're planting the seed that they're doomed for, they're going to get frail and old, and they're going to have brittle bones, and that's what pisses me off. And in the menopause sphere that's out there, there's these doctors, celebrity doctors, that are desperate to help get access for women to hormone therapy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But by pushing that message, they're also saying, and did you know if you don't take it, that more women end up with broken bones
or dementia?
So the message that's out there on social media is that if you don't take hormone therapy, something bad is going to happen to you, is so insulting to women. Because when you look at how you treat menopause, or how you look at the menopause experience, it's multifactored, right? It's not just medication, it's your community, it's your socio-economic factors, it's your lifestyle interventions. Are you smoking? Are you not sleeping? Are you drinking too much? Are you exercising? Are you sedentary? There's so many aspects to look at. And most of those lifestyle interventions, if you can tick some of the boxes on those, and I know this is your work, if you could be getting people to move more, to strength train, to have a more balanced diet, to improve their sleep, they're going to reduce or even mitigate the risk of their diseases and their lifestyle implications, things like brittle bones or sarcopenia, like osteoporosis or sarcopenia, by doing those. And I just think that we shouldn't be so binary in the conversation. I think it's unethical for doctors to talk like that. I think it's awful. The sound bites I hear, they're distressing for me, because I just think what you're doing is you're insulting women's intelligence, you're taking advantage of them, and there's an agenda behind it. I just don't trust them.
And the agenda is the bank account, right? At the end of the day,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to really have that mind of, yes, supplements can be helpful, but you can get some of these supplements for half the price on like creatine. Right. It's not a special, it's not this in creatine, it's creatine.
Exactly. And so, so for example, if we want to talk about menopause supplements, to me, the biggest issue out there, Kathy, is, I know you're probably talking about Mary Claire Haver that sells all of her supplements, and I don't think it's ethical that she does that, but I don't know her. I don't care about her or think about her at all. But I think a bigger problem personally is the proprietary ones that are out there. So proprietary, mixed, blended, menopause specific. I hate the menopause specific supplements. And I think, let's use Happy Mammoth, for example. They're a really shitty company. They do the worst ads of get rid of your trucker belly. Your husband doesn't want to sleep with you because you're a fat cat or something like that. It really is bad. And then they sell these mixed blend hormone supplements that they don't have to test, they don't have to show efficacy or safety or bioavailability, like how it absorbs into your body. And they target women, it's predatory. And so I would just say be careful of things like that, because there's been issues with women getting damage because of taking high doses of these supplements, thinking they're doing themselves a favor when they're not. And the Menopause Societies are really clear about this, and having a nutritional background, which you probably do too, that the whole point of a supplement is there a gap in your diet that you need to fill? Is there a gap in your risk profile that you need to fill? Or is there a deficiency in your body that you need to fill? Find out what your body needs. Like for me, I'll give you an example. I really struggle with anemia and vitamin D. I live in Canada, right? So I take ferritin and I take vitamin D. I don't need to take calcium with vitamin D and K because I have strong bones. But if I had a high risk profile for osteoporosis, I would definitely take those. I probably would take a fiber supplement if I didn't eat my vegetables. They're just some practical things. But taking like a menopause blend, or going back to Mary Claire Haver, like one of the things that she sells is crap. You don't need to take a turmeric supplement. And she's laughing with multi-millions of dollars all the way to the bank. And so I literally live in the camp of, if she can do that with her supplements, why would I trust her on anything else? That's how I look at this. Whereas I know some people are like, she gives out good information, so I don't mind if she sells supplements. You just got to decide which camp you're in. I'm not in that camp. I just think that ethically doctors really shouldn't be selling you supplements. I wrote a book, so it doesn't make me the money I want it to. But I'd like to give clarity there. Like, I don't particularly think I have an agenda. I've been working and talking about this for nearly 10 years now, and I really want to fill knowledge gaps, right? I really want women to have advocacy, and the only way we can do that is give them the information, give them the tools, and allow them to be able to make those choices. But regardless of whether I had a program to sell or not, I think just full transparency is just really important. And yeah, where do you draw the lines? It's a good conversation to have. I actually don't know exactly like what the line is. I've just told you I don't think you should be selling you the supplements. But will you go and just buy them from your local shop instead? How do you know they're good quality? So it's really a tricky conversation to have. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can talk about that. The buy one, get one free is probably not the best quality. If you need a vitamin C, then that you're probably not doing yourself any harm. But like with a fish oil, that would be something you would want high quality. So it's like navigating that, which is why it's important to make sure that you are following the right people. Get educated, read the books. That there are plenty out there. Your book, Dr. Jen Guther, has a wealth of information. And maybe you could drop a couple of people that would be viable for.
Yeah, I have I'm in Canada, and I feel like Canada have got, I don't know if it's their sensibility. I'm not Canadian. I am Canadian, but I'm obviously like British to start with. But the Canadians don't like to rock the boat, so they play it by the book. They're amazing. So there's a bunch of doctors that I follow in Canada that I really enjoy. One of them is Dr. Jen Gunter, even though she lives in the USA right now. I follow a doctor in the UK. I've become friends with a lot of them, right? Because we're all trying to share valid information. Her name is Dr. Anise Mukherjee. She's called the Hormone Doc on Instagram. And the reason I really like Dr. Anise Mukherjee is she's a consultant endocrinologist. So she knows hormones. That's what her job is. She's also a breast cancer survivor. And so she looks at this from a different lens point. She will often get the women coming to her that are the most complex cases. Same with Dr. Jen Gunter. They just don't see the run-of-the-mill women that can take a hormone therapy or some other medication and feel good. They're the ones with really complex. And she will often have to undo a lot of the damage that's been done by prescribing extra high doses or whatever. And so she comes at this very pragmatic standpoint, as in, is your hormone therapy working for you? If not, let's look at the different doses. What are your lifestyle interventions? Are you even looking at those? Do you know you can probably start feeling a little bit better if we've implemented like a walking program or balanced your nutrition a little bit or improved your sleep quality, all of the different things. And so I think that they're the people that you're going to get the most balanced information from.
Yeah, I think that it's important to have the information too, so that you can go be armed with your doctor, especially when they have the pushback. This is not, I don't know anything about that. They don't, might not admit, it's not the doctor's fault, but it's still at the same point. They could say, hey, this is not my area of expertise, and point you in the direction of somebody who is.
Exactly. And in the USA, if that's where most of your followers are, your listeners are, I would give a couple of resources. The Menopause Society is the governing body of menopause, and it's got some really great resources. They're actually doing this whole like rebranding, so because some of the stuff's hard to find. There's telemedicine companies out there now, and one of my favorite is Genev, and it's spelled Genev, Genev. And I like them over many of the others because if you're going telemedicine, it's because you're trying to find a provider and you can't find one. You've gone to the Menopause Society, you've looked through those providers and you just can't find one to help you because there isn't many. And so if you go to Genève, what they'll do is they'll do a full assessment and they'll look at you as an individual using a qualified provider, and the end result might be medication, it might not be, it depends, and that should always be the answer. But there's a whole ton of them out there where they've got a point solution and you literally are going to them for hormone therapy and there's no follow-up with them. And I just would be wary of those because you want to just make sure that someone's looking at you and your needs alone, right? And the good thing about Jeanette, and there's no money involved, like I don't have any affiliation with them, is that they are covered, you get insurance coverage with them too.
Yeah. I know I had a bitch of a time getting on the hormones.
Yeah.
The more that I listened to, I'm like, I absolutely need this, or I need to try it. So I did do a mail order company, but again, no follow up or anything like that. Luckily, I did well on that. But you know, it's having the follow up. Now I have a doctor that I work with.
And it feels better when you can support it because your needs are going to change over time. You go on hormone therapy now, maybe your symptoms get better. Maybe you don't need to be on the same dose. Maybe you want to stay on for longer because you're still struggling. I don't know. Like it really depends on you. And you do need the follow-up. Not having the follow-up, which is why I'm not keen on the mail order, but I also don't judge because I don't know, like women are struggling to get access to care, right? So what are you going to do?
Yeah, really though, your message just aligns so much with just getting the information. You have so much power. We have the power for self-advocacy, you know, taking charge of your lifestyle. And, you know, we probably see the same thing. I haven't changed anything. And now I don't recognize my body. And so really coming to terms with something has changed. Your body has changed. And whether you know it or not, your lifestyle isn't supporting the change that you're going through right now.
Actually, that's really well said. And I think that I would just add to that, because I wouldn't change what you've said, is that when you don't know what's happening, you resist it, right? You want to fight back against it, or it consumes you. When you start to have a little bit of information, you can lean into it a little bit and go, this is meant to happen. This is a rite of passage. It's as inevitable as paying taxes and dying. Like we're going to go through menopause. And I'm not going to resist it, but I'm going to do everything I can to support my body, however that looks, right? And I think that once you have that little switch in the mindset, and you're a coach, so I know you talk mindset, it can be the night and day. So when you wake up and you're feeling like crap, you don't think I'm such a loser. Why am I even here? You can go, all right, I'm having a menopause, it's kicking my ass day to day. So maybe we'll just adjust things accordingly.
Yeah. This too shall pass, but it is all consuming like it can be when you're just like kind of seemingly blindsided. But before we wrap up, I did see one of your posts, I think it's on your pinned post, as you are going through a change. You have to adapt to the changes. You're not always going to be able to wake up and have a kick-ass workout or feel amazing. And so having that, there's going to be the day where maybe you're just showing up to the gym or not going and knowing when. We're trying to fight for a body that we used to have. Your body's changing. It's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, maybe we put on a few extra pounds because of the process, but is that the worst thing? And just rolling with the punches again with the lifestyle, you have that on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it was.
And I talk about it as structured flexibility, and it's just how we were just saying then about leaning in to what's happening. Perimenopause kicked my ass, and I couldn't go on hormone therapy. It really didn't work for me. I struggled to find any relief, truthfully. And so I would have these days where some days I felt good, some days I felt nah, some days I felt amazing. And I had this, and I'm a coach, I'm a strength coach. I've always had my programs written out for me, and I would go to show up for my workout and I'd be like, I can't even get off the sofa today. It's not going to happen. And so I came up with a concept that isn't new, and I imagine that some people might know it as like auto-regulation, as in, what does your workout look like today? Check in, do a little check-in before you do it. And my scale, if you go to my Instagram post, it's pinned, is 1 to 10. If you're feeling like a 1 to 2, chances are the most you're going to do is make yourself a cup of tea and sit on the sofa and watch, like, I don't know, Friends on repeat or something, right? So give yourself a bit of a break. But maybe if you can, how about you just step outside and go for a 10-minute walk, because you want to try and look for ways that you will feel a little bit better every day. And the movement that you do will help that, right? We know that, right? We know exercise is so good for our endorphins and just our overall well-being. And then just moving up the scale. If you're feeling like a 4 to 5, like you're not exhausted, but you don't have everything to give, maybe you go through some mobility work, a yoga class, something that's a little bit less intense. Or maybe you go to do your workout and you work on your biomechanics. Maybe you just do the movement without weight. Just do something, and don't worry about like how long it's for and how hard it is, but just the showing up is super important. And then I say, like, when you're like a 9 out of 10, just carpe the DM out of your day, like actually go for it. Because when you work through a changing landscape, you have to be adaptable. And the thing about that post that I found really interesting, Kathy, is that when I put that out, people were like, hang on, you can do that? You're allowed to say, I'm not going to do that workout today. And I went, oh my God. And it made me realize that because I have that knowledge, I could just say, yeah, of course. But women need to be like told, yeah, you're in the driving seat and you can do it. And so it was one of my most successful posts. Yeah, it's the most simple in my mind. And as a coach, it's second nature to us. I just think it's just a really practical way of like navigating through this time. And let's just talk about the other side. You're 57, you're out the other side. I went through menopause at 48 fully, and by the time I was 50, I was back, right? It took a couple of years after menopause to happen for my symptoms to die down. And like most women in their post-menopause years are back. They feel good, they feel healthy, they don't have the symptoms. And the whole idea of menopause being a change and a transition, and we talk about it like that and know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not some dark cave that you're just stuck in forever. Yeah. It's really important. And I really miss the positive conversation around menopause, especially on social media, going back to how our previous fear-based clickbait posts that we see all the time. It drives me crazy.
It just highlights, I think we're so like going to battle and used to having things work with our body. Like it's that theme that you can fight to get your way back and get the baby weight off. It's like a recurring theme through of this, what we have to look like, and just realize like, you think it's giving permission. I think that's why that did so well, was giving yourself permission to honor where you are at right now and not pushing through all the time, because that's going to have a backlash effect on your body.
But even outside of exercise, like just like reimagine what it can look like. Maybe your body is a different shape. So what? Maybe you're exercising, it looks a little bit different. So what? You know what? Like the idea that you're going through a change and be accepting of that, and then just keep showing up regardless. You just power through. And I think that when you resist what's happening and you let that negative self-talk and then external talk in, it's just going to be a much worse experience, right? And I did another post the other day where I talk about in my coaching days where I would have like the 4 C's of like actually having the motivation to go forward. And really, I don't need to go through them all, but the consistency is the one, right? The consistency is showing up. It doesn't matter how big, how small. Do your little exercise snacks. It doesn't have to be a full workout. Show up for your social engagement. You don't want to go, but just go anyway. Go for a coffee with Kathy because you know you'll feel better afterwards. Like keep showing up because that's the way that you're going to thrive during.
And that's what we want. We want to get through, not just eke your way through it and just survive, right? We want to thrive through it at the other ends. I appreciate you so much for coming on. How can my listeners find you?
Yeah, you could go to my website, amandathebe.com, and then all roads lead from there. But I'm probably most active on Instagram, which is just Amanda Thebe. So you can find me over there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I will link that obviously, and also the recommendations that you made. And is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, not at all. I honestly would just encourage women to just not get sucked in by all of the doom and gloom that's out there, but also know that you can play your own role. I started off like you, talking to one other person, and it snowballs. So be open about what's happening in menopause. Talk about it with your friends and your family and your work colleagues. Keep the momentum going because all of us play a part in this, right? And we have to do it. We have no choice.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much, Kathy. Take care.